Pochettino's blue mud army, Pochettino's blue mud army, Pochettino's blue mud army, Pochettino's blue mud army. Well, we're up, shut up, and we are the Super Spurs. Everybody knows where the football collar stood. Aussies need the triplet 'cause we're going back to Wembley, and we're up, shut Tottenham.
This is some fucked up repugnant shit.
Good evening and welcome to an AFTV podcast. I'm your host Callum and I'm joined today by regular James. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Not too bad, thank you. Yes, and from across the pond we've got Judd. How you doing, mate? You alright?
Oh, I'm doing great, thank you.
We're coming to you today in a bit better mood than we were last time we met, James, because of course we came off the back of that 3-1 defeat to Monaco, and thankfully we've managed to recover well, and we're recording tonight just after, or the day after, the victory of Everton, which won 2-0. Not in the best of form, Everton, but it's always good to get a win over them. Goals from Giroud, who needed the goal, and Rosicki wrapped it up, so it was a good result all in all. So yeah, we'll start with you, James. You're at the game.
Yeah.
I know you had a few bits to drink that night, but the bits you can remember, what did you make of it?
I thought, we didn't perform to the greatest, but we got the win. You know, I don't want to use all the cliches in the book, but there's been time and time again where we've played badly this season and we've lost. So to win especially after the other night, I mean, we'll talk a bit more about the atmosphere later, but it was very flat to start with. You know, I said it in the pod that we need to score a goal early, otherwise that initial 20 minutes is just going to be quiet and it's going to be really flat, really deadpan atmosphere. But I was quite impressed, with a few of the players. I thought Gabriel especially really, really impressed me, because when Mertesacker got dropped, I did expect it, but at the same time I was like, it's Everton, they're a high possession team, we do struggle against them. There's someone like Lukaku who's very imposing. Maybe you'd want to go for Mertesacker just for the strength battle, but he held his own, and the tackle he made on Lukaku when he was one-on-one was absolutely superb. I said to people after the game and at half-time and whatnot that those are the kind of tackles that get you the 3 points. They're like game-winning tackles, because there's no way if Lukaku had steamed through and got through, he was going to miss. He would have scored that every day of the week. But so impressed with Gabriel yesterday, and stats-wise, he got the most interceptions of the league at the weekend. So that's pretty impressive considering that's his first Premier League match, is it? I believe.
Yeah, it was his first game.
Yeah, so he's already had the best stats for that weekend in his first game. So you can't knock that at all.
Yeah, no, Gabriel particularly was impressive, but on the general performance, Judd, as James said, we did kind of start pretty slowly. And that first 20 minutes, what were you thinking? Were you getting worried? Do you think this was going to be? It was clearly a bit of a hangover from the Monaco match, but were you worried at that point, or were you always confident that we'd get into the game?
Well, I think I was probably thinking the same way most of the Arsenal fans in the stadium, where you could, just even on the TV, you could sense there was that nerviness in the stands. It was quiet and people were apprehensive, and the way the game was playing out, it was certainly playing in Everton's favor for the first 20 minutes. I think they had like 57-60% possession, somewhere around there for the opening 20-30 minutes, and I think I even tweeted during the game that we just looked lethargic. Our passing was slow. People were taking that extra touch, letting the defenders close them down, and we just couldn't maintain possession, and it just looked disjointed and sloppy. And I thought for sure that if we were to go behind, we would be doomed. And it was funny though, because even as much of the ball that Everton had, they didn't really seem all that threatening. It was just one of those weird games where just like neither team really were able to impose their will on the game. And then right before halftime, when Giroud scored that goal, it kind of shifted things, put me more at ease. The second half was still nervy the entire time, because we didn't get that second goal until really late. But even though Everton, I think we had more of the ball in the second half, it felt like. But even then, Everton just never really seemed to create anything very threatening. So, all in all, I mean, I think I was more apprehensive because of the way the game played out last week against Monaco. That made me a little bit more nervous, but, it's like James was saying, it was one of those weird games where you were coming off the back of a poor performance, so maybe that just kind of built that nerviness throughout the stadium, and it would have been nice to have gotten an early goal and kind of put everybody at ease quickly, because like James was saying, Everton likes to have a lot of possession, and we've been playing a different style, it seems like, this year, where we're able to be more effective without the ball than we used to be.
No, I agree with that, but it was interesting. I remember at one point, I think the graphic came up and said we'd only had 29% possession.
It was
possession
something
at one
crazy.
point, and Everton had 71. But actually, I think we actually got extremely lucky that I think that Everton, we played them at home this weekend, because we had played on the Wednesday night, they had been away on the Thursday playing in Bern. In Switzerland, and even though they won, they still had to do a lot of travelling, and Martinez's side they keep the ball well, but as you said, they didn't have that kind of cutting edge. And if we'd been away from home against someone like a West Ham or a Palace or a Stoke, someone who would not have hesitated to go at us from the first whistle, I think we could have been in real trouble. But thankfully, we kept us shape enough. I mean, there seemed to be a sense that because we were so open on Wednesday, it kind of went the other way. We were so deep at certain points, and we did keep a good shape, but that often meant that we didn't have an awful lot going forward. So in the end, it wasn't really a surprise. I think that the goal came from a set piece, and I know you brought up Gabriel, James, but we'll talk about Giroud first. He got the goal for us after a pretty horrific night on Wednesday, and we all agreed on the last pod that he had a pretty, that's probably his worst game in an Arsenal shirt, or it was one of the worst ones. His head went. First of all, what did you make of the decision to keep him in the team from Wenger? Did you think it was the right one? And, what did you make of his all-round performance?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in the other pod I did say that you can't really take him out and put Welbeck or Walker up top against Everton, because, at the back they got, Jagielka, they got some big guys there, so you need that physical, imposing type of player, which Giroud, when he wants to be, can be. He baffles me a lot in the fact that you see him for some games, and he uses his body to his advantage, and he doesn't do this where he rolls on the floor and, he looks, it's pathetic. That's the best way to explain it. But when he uses his body and, his head and whatnot, he's a fantastic player to watch. And that goal yesterday was really well taken, nice volley, great little goal. But yeah, he had to be in there for me. But what annoyed me as well was that Bellerin made that fantastic run, beat two people, crosses it in, and that header was right where I was sat, like in the North Bank. I was watching, and I'm like, that's such an easy chance to tuck away for it. He puts them away in his sleep, and he fluffed it again. I
don't think it was
that.
It wasn't that bad. I don't think. I mean, it wasn't like
it
came
hit me in the head.
I think
it was that wide.
It was a poor header, but I think he mistimed his jump a little bit and just kind of wasn't quite at the right angle, but it was a great cross from Bellerin. And
that's the thing that I think fuels the hate, is that if he hadn't scored that first goal and the game was a lot different. I know it's if, buts and maybes, but if you have that one chance and that's it, and he doesn't take it away, that's where the criticism comes in.
Yeah,
there are people out there that will get that one chance and take that one goal.
Let's talk about that first chance then, Judd, because it was Alexis with a great cross in, I think it was, and Giroud gets away from Jagielka. Must have been 4 or 5 yards away from goal, and he heads it wide. I mean, what were you thinking at that point? More of the same?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially after the way things went against Monaco, I thought for sure that oh man, here we go. We're gonna have another one of those nights where we get just a boatload of great opportunities and squander all the chances, and then we get found out by one decent opportunity for the opposition, and then they score, and we are fighting from behind the rest of the night. And fortunately it didn't play out like that, but that's certainly where my head was at, and it seemingly was a popular opinion because like I said before, the fans, they were quiet.
Yeah, they were. But what do you think it says about Giroud's character, though, that after that mistake on Wednesday, after that opening miss, that he managed to actually, and the goal he took actually was a hell of a lot harder to score from, I think, than the chance he had at the beginning with his weaker foot on the volley. I mean, it was pretty good, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, as an athlete, you got to have a short-term memory. I mean, if you start dwelling on, the missed opportunities, you'll go insane in a short period of time. And, fortunately, he's been, able to just look past those things because, he certainly had plenty of things that he could look back negatively upon, and, the fans certainly like to. But he's done a good job of just kind of looking past that, knowing that, the next time it's a clean slate and just put away the next one. It'd be nice. And I think as fans, we've been kind of spoiled because we've had so many great strikers in recent years. We're not used to seeing strikers that squander opportunities quite as much. So,
well, but yeah, very true.
It's not a good thing that he does that, but at the same time, it's more of an average. He's more of an average striker than we're used to having. We've had so many great strikers come through. That's what we think everybody should be able to do. But in reality, that's not the case. That's, we've had so many elite strikers, and we just, unfortunately don't have that today. Not saying that we can't, but.
I agree, but then we have to remember as well that we did have players like Shamak who started well for us, and then they had a few bad games, and then he was never the same. So, I agree with that. And when he came to the club in 2012, Giroud, he obviously was very much in the shadow of Robin van Persie, who had just scored 30 goals and left for Man United. And Giroud was pretty much a like-for-like replacement, and inevitably he was never going to be anywhere near as good. But I think, you look at 2 years on, and I think people, Giroud is still guilty of some of the things he was guilty of when he first arrived at the club, but he's so much better now than he was when we first bought him, I think, and people need to keep a bit of perspective, and when he makes these mistakes, have faith in him that he will come back. And he scored like 9 goals in 13 games now, so it's difficult to have too much bad feeling towards him. So
I think it's just a matter of consistency. The thing that fuels it as well is that people will go, he scores 2 against Middlesbrough, he scores 1 against Everton, but when we play a big team, he doesn't do anything. And I know that's true, but you got to look at scored against City, scored against City, scored against Liverpool, scored against Spurs. I'm like, he does tuck them away when needed to, but I think Judd's got it spot on in that everybody has in their head, Arsenal striker, he's got to be a bit pacey, he's got to have a bit of flair, he's got to get 30 odd a season. And, Giroud's well on his way, but he's not a 30, 40 goal a season man. And he shouldn't be, but for me, he'd benefit from having a partner, I think. I think if he reverted to a system of 2 up front, it would suit him so much better.
Well, I have to say, whatever you think of Giroud, my favourite part of the game of the weekend was when Jagielka tried to tackle him in the box and he just pushed him onto the floor, which was great. You don't see that enough nowadays, that kind of great centre-forward play. And obviously went and Jagielka, I think, saved it with his hand, which was missed by the referee, but in the end, I guess it didn't matter. But right, you mentioned Gabriel James, and you've eulogised about him, but let's go back to that. That opportunity that fell for Lukaku in the first half, where the ball went over Gabriel's head and he was indecisive and it nearly cost us a goal. I mean, let's try and be objective here. I mean, the all-round performance, what did you make of it? Obviously, because there seemed to be, basically, it seemed to me that we're showcasing here what you're going to have to get used to with Gabriel in terms of both good and bad. Like he will have, in the early days at least, just like Koscielny and Mertesacker did, when they first arrived at the league. They were a bit ponderous at times. They made rash decisions, but I guess we got to see some of the things he can do with some, as you said, a number of interceptions and a couple of Hollywood tackles, I guess you could call them.
Yeah. I got told, I didn't know that much about him, but I got told that he wasn't the quickest, and he seemed rapid yesterday. I don't know if maybe...
Well, it's in comparison to Mertesacker.
Yeah, maybe
he looks quick off the mark.
But, thank God. I mean, I thought, Judd's normally the man for the goalkeepers, but thank God Ospina sorted that out, because he palmed the ball away, and then he made that slide tackle as well. When he ran off, I was a bit like, oh, no. But he mopped up well, and, he's got 4 clean sheets out of 7 games now, isn't it, Ospina, compared to Szczesny having 3 and 17. So you can't really moan. I mean, they've both got parts of their game that worry me and I disagree with, but Ospina seems to be the more trustworthy and least consistently bad of the two. And I mean, Martinez on his day is a really good goalie. I thought when he had to come in earlier this season, I thought Martinez was fantastic. But like I said, Judd, you're the goalkeeper man, so maybe if you want to chuck in a few words about Ospina or...
Yeah, I mean, that was one hell of a tackle he made, too, after he palmed that ball away. That was brilliant. I mean, that was right up there with Gabriel's tackle. But, yeah, I mean, my general thought with Ospina is, he just seems to have better decision-making than Szczesny. I mean, he doesn't come out as much, but when he does, he seems to get the ball a lot more. And I know that, in England especially, keepers that palm or punch the ball away, are kind of frowned upon, but, he's been effective when he's done that. He's gotten it into, open space instead of right to the opposition. So, I've been very pleased with him, and like I've said before on a couple of the other podcasts, maybe he's communicating better, or just a better fit with our defenders because they've seem to have played better with him behind them.
Probably helps that Ospina can speak Spanish as well with Gabriel.
Yeah.
Szczesny, I guess, wouldn't be. He'd probably shout and scream at him, but Gabriel might not understand a lot of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, overall, I've been very pleased with his play. I mean, certainly you can't complain when, he's, like you were saying, I think it's like 4 clean sheets out of 7. I mean, certainly nothing to be disappointed with.
What did you
a couple of the goals he allowed against Monaco I wasn't real pleased with, but
that's what I was going to ask you about, because I made the point the other night that I think Szczesny saves one of those goals. I just think Szczesny as a shot stopper is probably slightly has the edge on Ospina, and I wouldn't have been too surprised to have seen him rested, whatever you want to call it, for this game. But I think emphatically he probably proved us wrong. I think it's probably his best performance in an Arsenal shirt. And it was everything from the great save from Lukaku to when he saved from Lennon and actually managed to keep the ball close to him rather than letting it, because if he pushes it out, Lukaku has a tap in. So I thought that was actually really impressive. And of course that punch, I know you said about punching, but that punch he made with Lukaku absolutely clattered him. But it was really brave and decisive, and I think it was really good to see, because I think Szczesny's probably a bit peeved because he probably thought, Ospina's looking a bit shaky and I could get back in here, but then he goes and has that performance and justifies staying in the team, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it adds fuel to the fire in Szczesny's heart to get back into that lineup. That's what you need.
Exactly,
Good, healthy competition between, teammates fighting for that first team spot. It's a little bit different with the goalkeepers because for whatever reason managers are more hesitant to make changes because they feel that it disrupts the defense too much or whatever. But, that's the same thing that everybody out in any outfield position is dealing with every week. Every game, every match, they gotta fight for their spot, and I think it should be the same way with keepers.
Speaking about players in the first team and fighting for positions, going back to Gabriel, what do you think about him and with regards to Mertesacker's place in the team? Do you think that we'll see Mertesacker come back in? Was he just rested for Everton and Gabriel given a bit of experience, or do you think we could be seeing Gabriel in the team a hell of a lot more, with Mertesacker perhaps being edged out a bit? What do you think?
I could see this being the start of a transitional period. I don't think there's going to be just, one game where Mertesacker's he's dropped and never returns. We're going to have a lot of fixtures coming up with, well, maybe not after the Champions League and the FA Cup, but hopefully we got a lot of fixtures coming up. But, hopefully we got a lot of fixtures coming up, and then this maybe just it really was a good opportunity to rotate Mertesacker. He just played in the midweek, so I'm sure he needed a little bit of a rest, and, coming off of that kind of performance, obviously, time to let him kind of just, cool down a little bit, think about how things are working out with the defense, and, basically recollect his thoughts and get back out there. But, and then we got QPR on Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday.
So I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see Mertesacker back out there, for Wednesday night. Gabriel's performance certainly was good enough to get him that, start again. But it's a 3-day short turnaround. Our defense is already kind of thin with injuries, so I could see Mertesacker starting again on Wednesday night, and then maybe Gabriel on the weekend against United.
I guess it's pretty nice to actually have an option at centre back, because pretty much every week, the first half of the season it was, who have we got who can play there, and we would put them in. So I guess that's been nice.
Who's healthy today?
Yeah. One of the selection issue I want to talk about, James, was Kieran Gibbs. He seems to have made his way back into the team when the general opinion was that Monreal was playing very well. I don't think he didn't have a good game against Monaco, Gibbs, and he didn't have a good game well, not a particularly great game, I don't think, against Everton. I mean, what do you think of the whole left-back situation at the moment?
Like I said, I don't get why Monreal's been dropped. I really do believe that he has been the best defender at Arsenal this season. I think he's been fantastic. He gets a lot more criticism as well than Gibbs does, and I like having both, and I want Gibbs to succeed. Obviously, being English, you always want your homegrown talent to do really well. But for me, he just bombs forward too much. It just seems that he's very, charge. I just totally don't understand why he bombs forward like this. And
he's not exactly Roberto Carlos, is he?
No. I mean, he got up for that header in the first half, I believe, and it was a good chance. But at the same time, he just leaves them so prone. And I thought Bellerin, for me, had a fantastic game yesterday as well. I know I'm digressing a bit, but you need it like the old days of if one of you goes, one of you's got to stay back, and they both just seem to swarm and pile on, and we keep getting caught out, and it's just going to keep on happening. I think with Monreal, he's more disciplined in the fact that he's like, do you know what, I'm not as quick, maybe. So he's a good crosser of the ball, they both are. But Monreal, he's like, maybe I'm not as quick, so I'll stay back, but one of them's got to stay behind. You can't just both keep piling on. And I get Gibbs is hungry and he's got the enthusiasm and he wants to probably get the assists and score a few goals. But at the same time, you're a left back, mate.
No, very true.
You've got to defend primarily.
And I think I think with regards to Bellerin as well, people can kind of forgive the way he goes forward because he does actually offer a lot going forward. Whenever he gets into that final third, you feel like he can put in a good cross or make a good pass. Whereas the Gibbs always seems a bit ponderous, and as I said, he's not Roberto Carlos in the sense that he isn't particularly proficient in those attacking areas. What's your take on it, Judd? Do you think Monreal's just been given a rest, Gibbs given a chance, or do you reckon from here to the end of the season we'll be seeing Gibbs start pretty regularly?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, there's a lot that we don't see that goes into training, and who knows what's going on with Monreal exactly. But I haven't been thrilled with Gibbs' performance. I don't think it's been that bad either. But and I agree with James. He does seem to be a little bit more involved in the attack. So maybe it's been the opponents were playing. It's just tactically what Wenger prefers for that match. Who knows exactly why they've made that change, but all in all, I've been satisfied with the way that he's played. He hasn't really thrilled me, but he hasn't disappointed either. So, and Monreal, I mean, he does bring more of a defensive approach, and I think a lot of times he's come at the beginning of the season. He was coming off the bench, wasn't he, as a defensive change?
Yeah, well, he was often played in the centre, wasn't he, Monreal, because of our problems. I think he's actually a better defender now because of that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting. It's interesting to see because Monreal was number one for a few weeks, and it's been 2 games in a row now. I thought for the Monaco game it was Gibbs had been brought in because they had a pretty quick right winger, and I kind of expected Monreal to come back in. So. Yeah,
I don't know how much it plays into the decision-making factor, but when you've got somebody that's more versatile, sometimes it's beneficial to have them on the bench in case of an injury or a change that needs to be made tactically during the match. And that's certainly something that Monreal has over Gibbs. He is more versatile. He can play. I mean, he's come off the bench as a defensive midfielder a couple times, I believe, hasn't he?
Oh,
or is like third center back.
It wouldn't surprise me, mate, given the way the season's gone. Everyone seems to have played everywhere, and of course Chambers. Actually, we speak about that position. Of course, Chambers had to come on in the second half because our cock was bleeding profusely from the face, and of course it was that. It always seems to be Giroud, doesn't it? Giroud managed to headbutt Coquelin, and and you could tell straight away that his nose was
messed up.
And he then got a ball straight in the face, and bless him, was bleeding. So. Fingers crossed he's all well for QPR, but it wouldn't surprise me to see him coming out in one of those face masks that the players often wear when they've had facial injuries. But
Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, one of those. But it's often for cheek injuries, isn't it? But you never know. I guess they could.
Yeah. Broken nose, they have those too.
I can't imagine Coquelin will be wanting to miss a match just because of his broken nose. One of those things. But anyway, speaking, one of the performances I wanted to talk about in particular was Mesut Ozil, who. had a tough time against Monaco, and ended up with this game with 2 assists. But I'm going to start by saying that I thought he was really disappointing, and the thing is, it seems it's almost a crime in the eyes of some fans to criticise Özil, because if you criticise him, all you get is, but that's the way he plays. He plays slowly. I heard a stat that he ran more than anyone else on the pitch, and I don't doubt that. But for me, he was still a little bit too indecisive on the ball. His passing wasn't really up to scratch, albeit that pass for Rosicky at the end was pretty good. But I would have brought Rosicky on for Özil a lot sooner, and I don't know, am I being overly harsh? What do you think, James?
I don't get it. I don't get how someone like, he seemed very languid, is it the word, or very, slow, but he still gets 2 assists, and everybody goes, that's why he's that much money, he's world class and everything. I'm like, for me, like you said, he didn't really have a good game. From where I was watching, he starts to run, and then he's like, oh no, alright, I'll walk now. He goes at like a snail's pace again. And it's just weird. It's really weird, but he's got that moment of picking out a pass, like he did to Rosicky. He's got that in his locker, so I think that's why he gets kept on now. Sometimes when you think he's got nothing left to give and he's all out, he does produce that wonder ball.
But the question I'm asking is it worth having a player, keeping him on the pitch? Because it often seems like Wenger doesn't ever want to sub him.
No. And
to keep him on just in case he produces that bit of magic.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? It's really hard for me to answer that.
Well, we say a bit of magic, but it was as good a pass as it was. The only reason we score that is because Rosicky's shot takes a deflection.
Yeah.
Let's not kid ourselves. In the corner, he hit it into a genuine area. He wasn't aiming for Giroud, and Giroud actually has to, come out of position and turn it in. So, 2 assists, fantastic. I think since he's come back from injury, he has looked a bit better than before in terms of his goals and assists. Fair play. But it's just the whole time of the weekend, I was really looking for a bit more from him, and I just don't think we really got it. I was at the Arsenal-Everton game last season, and he scored a goal, played very well. But then, I don't know, what do you think? What's your take on it, Judd?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you guys. It's one of those weird situations where I guess it kind of just depends on your preference of how you want your players to play. I mean, if you value those guys that have that extra bit of class that can pick out a brilliant ball, and that's all that you need to see from them, it's like a couple of times a match they do that, and the rest of the time it's, just kind of filler, and whatever they do is fine.
The thing is, we have someone like Cazorla, though, sorry to butt in, but we have someone like Cazorla who is that kind of player who can produce that pass. But he was everywhere yesterday. He was always, I know he plays further deep, but he had no problem. Whenever he had the ball, he was being clever with his distribution. He was taking players on. He was doing well.
Sanchez as well. Yeah, he contributes defensively. He's capable of just a brilliant shot, brilliant pass out of nowhere. He closes down quickly. So I guess maybe the other players on the pitch kind of afford Ozil the opportunity to kind of just drift in and out of the match. I'm not saying that that's a good thing, but
The thing is, I've defended him a lot in the past, and I feel like he gets some stick from some quarters that is completely unjustified. And I know Gary Neville had a great time ripping him apart during the Monaco match, and some people have written various articles for various publications, labelling him a waste of money, blah 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 blah. I don't think he's a waste of money. I don't think he's a bad player. I don't think he's even in bad form. But I do think that there needs to be a middle ground here. I think some of the criticism is way too much, but also this kind of opinion that you cannot criticise him, and there seems to be a lot of, and I understand why, but a lot of fans seem very defensive over him. And I just think, look, I don't expect him to go harrying around like Alexis. I think it's very difficult to compare Özil to Alexis, because Alexis is probably, of all the top players in Europe, no attacking player works harder than Alexis defensively. But as I said, you look at guys like Cazorla, who is a creative number 10, but he has no problem, and people often speak about, Özil, and it's all about off the ball movement, but when he receives the ball, so often he just seems to get easily pushed off it, and I know he's boxed up a little bit, but he just hasn't, with his distribution, it often seems a little bit slow and indecisive, and he was better than he was against Monaco, and I do wonder if I'm perhaps being a bit too heavy-handed with him, but I just think that all I would say really is that people who see Özil 2 assists, he must have been back to his best. I don't think that was the case at all. And yeah, maybe I'm being too harsh, and we'll see more and more from him as we go on. But I guess now we have options all over the pitch, don't we? I mean,
Yeah.
Walcott didn't start. We had Oxlade-Chamberlain started this game, but Walcott didn't start well, but he didn't start. Rosicky, I mean, what does Rosicky have to do to get a start? I mean,
Right.
when we're playing slow and ponderous, is there anyone with more energy than him? You know, he may be 34, but he doesn't, as we've said many times before, he doesn't play like it. No. So, I mean, what do you take on? I mean, what do you think about Rosicky? I mean, and are we even going to see him come off the bench when we have Ramsey and Wilshere back as well?
I hope. I mean, I've always thought maybe that the reason Wenger doesn't start him is because he likes to have that injection later in a match, you know, to kind of step up the pace and put the pressure on teams late. And you know, maybe Rosicky doesn't have the legs to, you know, play a full 90 anymore. But
I don't buy that. I think he probably couldn't play every week, but he could do it. He can play a match.
Yeah.
You know, and we can always sub him off later on and bring on Walcott or Welbeck or someone like that. But I don't know. It's difficult. It's difficult to see why Wenger. I mean, do you think there's a degree
it's
of
a nice problem to have, though, for a change.
No, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
What do you make of all, James, about Rosicky and
yeah, for me,
Saul's position as well?
Yeah, for me, Rosicky, I hope he gets a few starts, like you guys have said, but for me, he's like Solskjaer used to be at Man United. He understands, you know, all right, I'll sit on the bench, and when I do come on, I'll show you something. I'll get an assist, or I'll get a goal, or yeah, and like you said, the injection of pace I think is fantastic, and you know he really is a gem of a player. I mean, all the injuries he got, even though he is 34, he does seem like a 20, 22, 23-year-old. The way he runs and the way he helps the play. So hopefully he gets a few more starts. But I think I like him as the impact sub, if that's the right way to say it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I see his value off the bench, but I just think it'd be nice from time to time to see him given a go, especially when we're playing, Saturday match, Wednesday, and then Sunday. We've got 3 games in the space of 7 days. Just seems a waste, really, to only have him on for the last 10 minutes or so. All right, then, before we go on to speak about the QPR game coming up this week, we probably should touch upon the atmosphere on the weekend. There was definitely a cloud hanging over the players and the fans. You could tell from the Monaco game. James, you were there. Well, in body, maybe not in spirit, or in effect, But from your point of view, what was the atmosphere like? Was it as bad as it looked on television?
It was dire. It was absolutely dire. It was so flat and just. I think it was the hangover of that game. But even the Everton fans weren't even loud. They were just as bad. You'd think you paid all that money to travel. It's a long way to go. At least, maybe sing a few songs or whatever. But I really don't know what's going on at Arsenal. I just think you watch the away games, and even if you watch them, like me sometimes on a dodgy stream, you can still hear them. But at home, it's a totally different, it's just a totally different atmosphere. And I don't know if it's because, I understand that, they spend their money when they come over here, but I don't know if it's too touristy or if it's too corporate. I don't know what it is. It just seems that, more people are inclined to just sit on their hands the whole game and watch the game instead of being that 12th man. And I think the way I look at Arsenal Stadium, I've been to the Amsterdam Arena, Ajax Stadium, and they have a section which is specific, singing section or, a lively section of fans. And it makes it sort of look like a fortress when it's even on TV, compared to at a game, it still looks like a fortress. And we can definitely do that at Arsenal. And you've seen what making, your stadium be like a fortress is like. I mean, Stoke haven't even got the capacity that the Emirates has, yet they get on your back. And Crystal Palace as well, look at what they did against Liverpool. For the full 90 minutes, they're up there singing This Is Last Season, and they pull off the results. And I don't get what's going on at Arsenal. And I really hope and pray that, the fan groups get together and speak to the club about doing something about it, because it really is bad.
I think they do speak to the club about it, but just this constant,
maybe it's the whole, as long as we're getting the money in, we don't mind.
Well, my personal take on it is that there's just it's a mixture of things. It's the fact that, I mean, we're such an expensive club to go see nowadays that the demographics, you know, rather than being younger guys that want to sing and make a noise, it's kind of up the older people that can afford it. You know, when we're not in good form, obviously that makes, well, we're not in bad form, but after a game like we had against Monaco, everyone's on edge. And, you know, the club seem very apathetic towards the idea of improving the atmosphere. You know, they don't, probably you're right, they don't really care. They have bums on seats for the most part, and they don't really care what those people on those seats do. So, I mean, what's your take on it, Judd? Do you agree with all of that?
I mean, yeah, and not to make excuses because you shouldn't only sing when you're winning, but, you know, that wasn't exactly the most entertaining start to a match that we've ever had in our stadium.
Well, the players probably do have a responsibility as well, I guess. But it kind of, they feed off each other, don't they? The fans and the players.
Exactly. You know, and if the players aren't up to it, the fans need to pick them up, and vice versa. You know, a little bit of both at least. You know, obviously the players can't just, you know, will themselves to take over a match to get the fans excited at any point because they're playing against an opponent. But, you know, the fans can at least give them that little bit of energy when, you know, things are not going our way. And, you know, I hate to say it, but, you know, if you look just 5 years ago, the way that we'd play, the style we played, it was so much more entertaining. You know, we're winning though. You know, we're getting the results now. But I remember tweeting it's a different type of, it's a different style. It's the new thing.
Well, I remember, like, because back 5 years ago or so, when we were losing, it was always kind of glorious 3-2 defeats to Wigan, you know, where we were just looking good going forward, but we just had Mikel Silvestre at the back. But earlier in the season, I remember saying a few times that when did we get so boring? You know, I mean, I think we've improved a lot, but, you know, earlier in the season when we looked really disjointed, we were going down, you know, by a couple of, I remember the Dortmund game away in particular was when it kind of, that was the moment I kind of realised this season, thought we're not going to win the league, and but not by any distance. And, you know, as I said, we just looked, I mean, and a few times this season we've looked really, really slow and ponderous and boring, and it never used to be that way. It used to be that we'd play attacking, a bit like Liverpool last season, we'd play attacking and we'd, you know, either win 6-0 or lose 5-3, you know, it was one of those. But I think we have improved, I guess, to a degree, but, you know, you're right. I think, you know, everyone used to always say we were the best team in the country to go watch play, and I don't think that's the case anymore. It's difficult to make that point, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I mean,
when was the last time you guys... Oh, sorry, Judd, I'll let you finish.
Well, I say people used to they'd chastise me before when I would say that I found watching Swansea 2 or 3 years ago, under, was it Laudrup?
Rodgers and then Laudrup, yeah.
Yeah, under Laudrup, they were entertaining to watch. You know, I thought they played great football. I thought they played better football than we were at the time. Certainly better than we are now, but, you know, we get the results, they don't. So, I mean, I'd rather have the points.
So, no, I completely agree with you, Judd. And I remember at the end of the 2012-13 season when we had that kind of late push for fourth. I should be aiming for more, but that's what we were doing. But we were winning 1-0, 2-1, going to these teams away from home, and those when Koscielny and Mertesacker were playing really well, and I love that. And also our title challenge at the beginning of last season was built on that kind of, well, we'll defend well for the whole game and Ramsey will score, you know, and that worked for a while. Probably not sustainable, but it does seem we've got a bit of an identity crisis at the moment. You know, we went to City and we defended well and we won 2-0 and everyone said hallelujah, we've made the change. And then we went.
But even then, we were playing pretty defensively.
Well, that's my point. But we went defensively, but we still looked good going forward. Then we went to Tottenham and just played so defensively that we allowed ourselves to get swamped and we lost deservedly. So I don't think we've quite got it nailed yet. But I guess it's good that we can play other ways, and hopefully we'll. It's so hard to say, isn't it? We don't know who's going to be the manager next year or what, or how this season will end. So let's just move on. Let's look forward a bit more in the short term. QPR the weekend, away from home. They've got a new manager in, but it's not a Tony Pulis or anyone like that who's really buoyed them. They've got Chris Ramsey, who was the assistant at Tottenham, wasn't he, before? He was assistant at QPR, now he's the manager. You know, should we be scared of QPR, or is it a case of if we keep Charlie Austin quiet, we'll keep them quiet? James, what do you make of the game coming up? What do you reckon's going to happen?
Yeah, I agree exactly what you've said. I keep Charlie Austin quiet. I don't think, you know, they've got anything anything else that I've seen this season from him. You know, obviously, Mr. Barton suspended for his nice little slap in the balls he gave to Huddleston, was it?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Yeah. He's out. So you know, that's one thing out of the way. But you know, I was raving about Stephen Corker earlier last season, and when Cardiff got relegated, I thought he's a centre back that Arsenal should look at, but he's been dreadful.
Spent too much time with Rio, I think, probably.
Maybe, but no, for me, I think they'll make it quite a uncomfortable game. You know, it's a weird ground, Loftus Road. I don't know if you've been, but it's a really weird,
very tight,
kind
isn't
of, yeah, and you can't really see very well because it's quite low and like it's quite restricted view. But I'm sure the fans will go there and make a good noise, and I can see us.
2-1 all over it, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll make
One
a meal
way or
of
the
it.
other.
We'll make a meal of it, but I reckon we'll come out quite unscathed and hopefully without any major injuries for the game on Monday.
I think it's good. It's a good thing that we played Everton first before we went away from home, because this game would have been a nightmare if it had been off the back of the Monaco game. Whereas we've had one match to settle the nerves, get back into our rhythm a little bit. So I think we might just scrape it. What do you reckon, Judd? You confident?
Yeah, I mean, I'm confident that we'll get a positive result. I'd really like to see, you know, a comfortable win, you know, an early goal.
That doesn't happen, does it though?
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, ideally that's what I'd like to see, but the realist in me knows that that's not going to play out like that. But, you know, I'd like to see an early goal, and, you know, just, it'd be good to have that, you know, confidence boost before the FA Cup match against United. You know, something to build on is what I'm hoping for. You know, I certainly expect a result, and I'm confident that we'll get a result, but, you know, it's always tight against QPR, isn't it? I mean, I can't remember too many matches that we beat them comfortably.
We scored that goal.
Last couple of years.
Was it last season where Arteta scored the goal that was offside, that kind of was bouncing down the line in the last minute?
I believe so.
And then we had one where we lost 2-1. That might have been a few seasons ago.
Yeah, 2 years. I think it was 2 years ago.
We never go there and win. Oh, and then last season when Walcott scored after like 12 seconds, and then it was 1-0 in the end, wasn't it? So yeah. But I'd probably guess the same. Probably a tight victory. What do you make of the team, Judd? Would you change it up from
I could see Everton, a few changes being made, just because, you know, I'd probably see Mertesacker's probably going to come back into the lineup. I wouldn't be surprised to see Monreal.
What would you do personally? Would you bring Mertesacker back in, or would you rather see Gabriel start?
I would, and then I'd give Gabriel a rest for United.
So you'd go.
Yeah, I could see it going either way though.
You'd rather have Gabriel for United, would you?
Yeah,
because I would probably say keep Mertesacker for United, because
I could see that. I definitely could see that, because he's got, you know, more experience of the league. You know, he understands the.
But it's Wednesday to Monday, isn't it? I mean, the Man United game is Monday night, so there's a bit of time to rest. Maybe we'll see Mertesacker 2 in a row. What about the forward positions? Would you bring in Mazitsky? That's what we all want, isn't it?
I would, yeah. I would, and then I would put. I'd like to see Welbeck get another start. Maybe. You know, I'm hesitant to take Giroud out of the lineup, but it'd be good to give him a rest before.
Something we haven't mentioned is Alexis, of course, who, and that's a lot that we haven't mentioned.
Well, I mean, he's always an automatic selection, it seems like. I mean, he never. He's the Energizer buddy.
You realise the last few weeks, actually, we've not really been talking about Alexis too much, because he hasn't played or really made an impact in many games, has he? And I'm of the opinion that he might even. I mean, you've got United coming up. He could do with probably, because he's not. I don't think he can really play through it. You know, we know he's a good player. It's not an issue. It's just, I think he's probably a bit tired. You know, he's never played in a league that doesn't have a winter break, so maybe he's just getting a bit jaded. I know he's had a few rests, but he's still playing pretty much every match and going for large parts of them. James, what would you do about Alexis? Would you? I'm inclined to rest him as well. Yeah, keep him fresh for you.
Another thing as well is I know we talked about it a bit earlier, but if Coquelin has a head injury or a broken nose or whatever, if he wears the Zorro mask, he could be okay. But if it's a head injury, that's a good 3 days out. So I doubt that maybe he might be there for QPR. I don't know if he'll play Chambers at DM.
Flamini might be back.
Yeah,
Ramsey. I think they're both in training. Ramsey.
Yeah, I think it'd be Flamini. But you know, for me, you know, people say, oh, you know, Chambers, give him a go out there, but I think in the Premier League, it's not really worth the risk. We need the points. You know, if it was like League Cup or, you know, I'd say maybe go for it. But in these games, for me, we need the points. And Chambers as well I think his future is at centre back, and I don't want to Phil Jones him in the fact that we're like, oh no, he can play here, he can play there, and then he develops into someone that just seems like he can't play anywhere. But I just hope he sticks at centre back. But hopefully Coquelin's in there. Maybe he'll have the old Zorro mask.
Hope so anyway. But right, let's know your score then, James. What are you going for?
I'm going to go, like you said, 2-1.
2-1, yeah. 2-1 Arsenal. What about you, Judd? Same thing?
I'm gonna go with the 2-0.
2-0.
Another shutout. Another clean sheet for Ospina.
Ever the optimist.
I hope so.
Yep.
I
like
this. Yeah, I think we all want to like Ospina, don't we? I like how he likes to come out and head the ball. Well, not good for my own sanity, but it is quite fun to watch when he pulls it off. But one little thing before we go. Of course, this is it 13 years, James, to the day?
Yeah.
Come more than 13 years. Bergkamp scored that goal against Newcastle, was it?
I think it's 13.
2002. No, yeah, you're probably right. 13 years.
Yeah.
13 years, and we were just saying beforehand, weren't we? But I know personally that I've seen it a million times, that goal, and every time. And if you asked me to reenact it in my back garden, I just couldn't even turn my body the right way, So that's a nice little thing to remember. How, the Iceman.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable goal.
Is that your favourite ever Bergkamp goal?
I think it's one of the best goals in the history of the Premier League. I know. I don't want to be biased.
In terms of uniqueness,
it's just amazing. Like. It's like you've said, you can watch it still 13 years on and go, I don't know how he's done this. It's so good. And I didn't even watch it live because it wasn't on the TV or nothing. I remember being in the car and I remember listening to 606, and God knows who the commentator was. I should be one of these. I'm very good at reminiscing and knowing exact points and times. But they said, I've just seen one of the most brilliant goals I've ever seen on a football pitch. I remember going home that night and watching the Premiership, which was on ITV. I don't know if you remember that, Callum, when they got the Premier League rights, and they had their own. Yeah, they had their own digital channel that went bust after a week.
Used to play Beautiful Day by U2.
That's the one. That's the one. And they had Ali McCoist on there. And he said, that's the biggest fluke I've ever... And all of them just looked at him and like, oh, that is jealousy. They all just looked at him like, you are... Well, how can you say that? So, like, Des Lynam just shut him down straight away. Like, how dare you? It was superb. But how many times did Dennis score goals like that? I mean, the hat-trick against Leicester, and I could reminisce about Dennis Bergkamp all day. I love the man a bit.
If I could just for a second, I mean, every goal has something. Every good goal has something special that makes it that unique. Like, incredible technique on a volley, or vision to find a pass, or just creativity. But that goal had everything. I mean, it was just brilliant in every way imaginable. The vision, the technique, the creativity, just off the charts. Off the charts.
No, I completely agree. And it's funny, James, speak about listening to it on the radio, because I was driving back from it was the Galatasaray game this season when Ramsey scored that screamer, and the commentator was trying to describe it, and I was like, I have to see this goal because it sounds absolutely crazy. I guess it's those moments you remember, and I wonder if people will be saying 13 years time, it was that Ramsey goal. It was 13 years ago today. So anyway,
I doubt that.
Maybe, it was pretty bloody good. It was pretty bloody good.
It was plenty good, but it was Birmingham's was on.
Well, if Ramsey goes on to win multiple Premier League titles and Champions Leagues with us, then we might look back at his time with us even more fondly than we will do anyway. But anyway, boys, that pretty much wraps it up. So thanks for joining me. Glad to be on tonight after a bit of a better result. And I imagine there'll be another podcast sometime after QPR, and of course with the United game coming up in a week's time, week today, isn't it? So we'll be there'll be people will be on doing that as well. So thanks for listening, guys, and Judd, thanks for coming on, mate.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks to you, James, as well.
No worries. Thank you, Cal. Thank you, Judd.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for listening. Good night. Bye.